Hello, and welcome back to Parler tout seul. If you are here, it's most likely that you are a language learner yourself. I am also a language learner, and I might have a few tips and tricks to help you learn your new language more efficiently. So let's dive into it. The first method is the method that is really well known as the immersion method. So you might be an expat trying to learn the language where you live right now. That means you are in a very good position because now you are able to immerse yourself in an environment where everyone speaks the language that you want to speak. So what you need to do is just to mimic the local, go to the local restaurants, go to the local bar, read the local newspapers, watch the local TV shows, and communicate with the local people. And to do this, you need to avoid one big thing. That is, avoid being trapped in a bubble of your own country. So you might be living in France or in Germany, but you might have a friend groups full of people from your own country. And you speak your own language day to day, and you don't really practice your new language, which is not good for your language learning journey. So avoid, for example, having a roommate from your own country, avoid hanging out with only people from your own country, and etc. Because I know a lot of people who move to France or Germany. They've lived here for more than 10 years, but they don't really speak the language that well, which I think not good for them and not good also for the local people. So you need to get out of those bubbles, get local friends, and you can improve your language much faster. But if you don't live in a country where your target language is spoken, you can still make an artificial environment around yourself. The very simple way, for example, is to change the language in your gadgets to your target language. For example, if you're learning Spanish, right now, turn your phone or your computer or anything to Spanish. And then you will learn a lot of new words from your phone. For example, you can know how to say send a message or how to unlock your phone in your target language. You might be afraid and you might think, but what if I press the wrong button because I don't understand the language? Let's be honest here, we've spent way too many hours a day on our gadgets and you know what to press. Changing it to another language won't really bother you. Instead, it will help you to learn the new language. So do it now. Change the language in your phone to your target language. It will really help you. The second method is to learn new vocabularies as a whole. What I mean by this is, for example, you are learning a new European language. You know that in a lot of European language, most likely you will have to struggle with the gender of nouns. For example, in French, there are two genders, masculine and feminine. The sun is le soleil, which is masculine because of the le in front of the soleil. And the moon is la lune. La here indicates that the moon is feminine. If you think to learn only the nouns like soleil and lune, that is the wrong method. You need to learn also the gender from the get-go. This can also be applied, for example, if you're learning Mandarin. So instead of learning with gender, you should remember every character with the correct tone, which is also important because if you don't speak with the correct tone, native speaker might not understand you at all. So the next method is to speak it out or to mimic the native speakers. So whenever you read something in a foreign language, try not to just read it with your head, with your mind, but also with your mouth because the muscle needs to train itself so that it can produce the right sound. Those sounds might not even exist in your native language, so your mouth is not used to it at all. You need to train it to start to say simple words so that it can get used to it. So what I personally do is when I walk through a street, I try to read all the signs, street names, shop names, and just spit the words every single time. By doing that, you learn how to pronounce the word correctly. The next step might be a little bit controversial. So for me, the most important thing is to learn grammar first and not just building on vocabularies. Some people might say, we can still speak a language without really learning the grammar, because the native speaker would still understand even though I don't use the right grammar, as long as I have the vocabularies. I might disagree, because if you want to deliver a precise meaning, you need to understand the grammar. And grammar points are not that many. You can study them in a shorter amount of time compared to vocabularies, which might take a lifetime. So what I'm saying here is not that you have to forget completely about vocabularies and learning only grammars. What I'm saying is that you need to focus on grammars, but you also need to build your vocabularies little by little. But don't focus on that. Focus first on your grammars, and then you can build your vocabularies after. If you're learning French, I have a recommendation for grammar. You can study French with this grammar book, for example, which is really good for me. I use this book as well when I learn French. Or if you're learning German, I also have a recommendation for a German book, which also helped me a lot. I'll put the link in the description down here. The next point is to write a journal. So in language learning, you don't only need to train your reading, your speaking, or your listening, you also need to train your writing. And if anything, I think writing is the hardest aspect of language learning compared to the other three. You can start small, so as I said before, by writing a journal. Or if you don't feel like writing anything out of the blue, you can try, for example, to use a book like this. So Q&A journal, 365 questions for a year. So every day you will get a prompt. For example, the question for 4th of June is, today you wore? And then you can answer the question, for example, with 50 words or so in your target language, so that you can learn how to use daily words for your journal. And since it is a journal, so it's only for you, there's no judgment here. You can use Google or any other resource to help you with your journaling. And since it is a 5 years journal, after a year you will get the same question, but now you can see how you answered the same question last year. And now you can answer the same question and see how much you have improved. It's a really good method to see your progress. And the last, but definitely not the least, if anything, it might be the most important thing, is to be consistent. Language learning is like a marathon. It is a long process, but you need to be consistent and do something every single day. Even 15 minutes a day is enough, but you need to do it daily. So those are all the tips and tricks that I have for language learning. Do you have any other tips that I didn't mention in this video? Write them in the comment section below. And if you have tried one of the methods here, why don't you also tell us how it works for you? That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching, and see you again next time. Bye!